8 minutes after 11 o'clock, we begin now with our relationship and sex feature. And today we are having a conversation about bad sex and how to recover. And just to remind you, this is an adult conversation. So if you've got kids listening, you may want to just give them some headphones, or you may just want to give them something to be busy with, but no kids allowed for this conversation because it's adult content. We're talking about bad sex and how to recover from it, because everyone at some point has had bad sex. In fact, bad sex is likely far more common than the great or even the consistently good sex that we imagine other people are having, right? But what is bad sex really, and what makes an encounter fall flat or feel awkward or leave us with that quiet sting of disappointment? And importantly, does being in a loving, stable relationship mean that we are exempt from these moments? Because sometimes bad sex is nothing more than an off night, or your connection feels slightly misaligned, or maybe your nerves are getting the better of you. Maybe the room is hot, or there are mosquitoes, or someone's mind is somewhere else. And it's in those cases that couples can, sometimes laugh and shrug it off and move on. But when these moments become frequent, when they linger in memory or cast a shadow over future encounters, they can reveal deeper emotional, relational, and even medical issues that shouldn't be ignored. I would like you to, as always, join the conversation. And I want to know if you are having the kind of sex that leaves you and your partner disappointed or unhappy. Are you having the kind of sex that leaves you disappointed or unhappy? And what part of sex is unsatisfying or even bad? Is there a lack of foreplay maybe? Are they just not hitting the right spots? Is it something, maybe something is going on mentally here for either of you? What has been your experience with bad sex, and have you found ways to address it with your partner? Give us a call on 011-883-0702 or send a WhatsApp voice note on 072-702-1702. Casey Blake is a sexologist and registered counsellor who's going to guide us through this conversation. Casey, thank you so much for making time. Great to have you back on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Great to be back. Thank you for having me.
When we talk about bad sex, that could be subjective, right? Some people may, what is bad sex to you may not be bad sex for the next person. So when we talk about bad sex, what exactly are we referring to?
I think you've touched on some important points, is that it's very relative, it's very subjective. But I want to clarify what we are talking about when we talk about bad sex. We're talking about consensual sex, because we've just spoken about the crisis we're in with GBV, and assault and coerced sex doesn't count as bad sex because that's not sex, that's violence. So I just want to be clear that we're not talking about situations that leave us in a assaulted state. So bad sex happens when it's, as you say, it's not what you wanted, expected. I think we have to ask people why their sex is bad. Are we thinking about pain? Is that what makes it bad? Are we talking about not being able to perform, your body isn't functioning like you wanted it to? Like you mentioned, there could be medical issues. Is there not enough pleasurable stimulation? Is it boring? What makes bad?
Yeah, and that's an important question again, because bad is subjective. There are other people who often call us on the show when we have these conversations, and they say for them bad sex is it was just painful, or bad sex for them is poor technique or lack of orgasm. And I wonder what some of the reasons sex can feel disappointing or disconnected are. And we can't use the argument of, well, if you are not emotionally connected to someone, then that sex will be bad, because there are some people who will say, well, I've only engaged with someone once. I didn't know them. I've never really emotionally connected with them. It was one night stand, but it was the best sex of my life. So are there other reasons, or maybe the more common reasons, that sex can feel disappointing or disconnected, far apart from what people often raise about, I didn't have an orgasm, or there was just poor technique.
I think not having an orgasm and poor technique are definitely things that need to be spoken about. Ideally with the people that you're having the bad sex with. And we have to think about, is there a reason you're not talking about it? Do you not want to hurt their feelings, and what's that about? I think some of the most common stuff, in addition to what you've mentioned, is, are you present in your body? Are you feeling the pleasure? Are you disconnected from yourself? Are you thinking about the shopping list? What's happening during sex? Because it's not necessarily the emotional connection, as you say, but are you connected to what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a misconception that some people have. They think that because you are in a loving, stable, healthy relationship, you're so happy, then there's no way that you can experience bad sex. But that is a possibility, right? I mean, even the most happiest of couples are not having the craziest orgasms every time they engage sexually. They've got moments where they've got weird or awkward, or what then you could term as bad sex.
Yes, I think that assumptions are the route to disappointment, because we're not. How do you know? People are very happy in their relationships that are not sexual. People are happy with their sex experiences even if they don't orgasm. So what makes it good for them is different for each person. I think that relationships come with so many assumptions, and especially heterosexual monogamous relationships, where you've been told that once you're in this relationship, everything's going to fall into place, and you might stumble once or twice and then you'll be good. And I think that's the biggest way that we let ourselves and our people down, is that no, sex is a skill that we have to figure out together, because that's how we play game. It's a game. Sex should be fun, not a manipulative kind of game, but it should be fun. How do you figure out what's fun without being able to talk about what's fun and what's not fun?
Exactly. Yeah. How do you do that? Okay. So many people, sometimes describe feelings of shame, of insecurity, or regret after an unsatisfying sexual encounter. What actually gets triggered in our minds by bad sex? I remember 2 weeks ago on the show, we were having a conversation about giving pleasure and receiving pleasure. And a lot of men were calling in and saying, I don't even care if I have an orgasm as long as I'm giving pleasure to my wife or my partner, as long as my partner can have an orgasm, that is what satisfies me sexually. And now I'm just wondering, and I remember making a comment 2 weeks ago that there are a lot of women out there who have faked an orgasm because there's so much pressure that is being placed on them to actually have an explosive orgasm. So now you end up faking it, because if you don't orgasm, the partner feels like, oh, I have failed you, I have not satisfied you. So what is that trigger in our minds by bad sex where you end up feeling insecure, or you're regretting, or you're unsatisfied from a sexual encounter?
Oh, so much to unpack there. Yes, so much pressure. I think if we look at the different reasons women, specifically heterosexual women, fake orgasms, there are so many reasons, including getting it over with. So we're coming back to, are you talking to your partners about what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy? And there's so much shame in enjoying something that's not happening, and not knowing how to ask for it because you're going to be judged, because you're judging yourself for wanting that. And that could be anything from wanting more kisses, more or less oral, certain positions, all the way through to different kinds of kinks, incorporating sensual sensations, feathers, ice cubes. a little bit of consensual pain. There are so many things that could be what is missing for you, but you've got this shame around you not being normal for wanting these things because your partner hasn't brought them up or doesn't want them. And unbeknownst to you, they could be waiting for you to bring it up this whole time.
And we know that many couples are uncomfortable to talk about sex, but in your experience, do you find that there's more and more conversations taking place? Because how do you fix bad sex if you are not talking about it? How do you fix some moments that were awkward during that sexual encounter if you're not going to talk about it? How do you raise this even with your own partner without making them feel like they don't satisfy you or they're big failures in bed?
I think we have to talk about how we all are learning each other's bodies, and as we age, our bodies shift. So this is a constant learning experience. And if we take that as our starting point, the fact that some things aren't as nice as they used to be, or that you think something will be nicer than it used to be, shouldn't be something that we are ashamed of. And one of the things I mentioned earlier is, are you not talking to your partner because you don't want to hurt their feelings? Probably they have a sense. They might not know what is not good about it. They might have a sense that something's not okay and you're not talking about it. And if they check in, you say you're fine and you are enjoying it. We humans have a sense of when someone's not being real with us, when someone's hiding stuff from us. And we also know from research that in heterosexual partnerships, men are more likely to enjoy the physical pleasure of sex than their women partners. And if it's often about misconceptions around what is pleasurable, what kind of stimulation is needed. You mentioned foreplay, and I think I often talk about how, for me, foreplay is the contact, the flirting, the messages in the day. It's what you're doing that is erotic. That's already foreplay. When you are doing things together, whether it is kissing someone's neck, if you're doing it sexually, you're already in a sexual encounter.
I'm going to take some WhatsApp voice notes and I want to take some calls as well. Our listeners want to are joining this conversation. They're sharing some of their experiences with us. We're talking to Casey Blake on our adult content segment this morning, our relationship and sex feature. We're talking about bad sex. Or maybe you want to call it uncomfortable sex, because bad is subjective. Like what is bad to me may not be bad to you. We're talking about bad sex and how to recover from it, and also how to raise it with your partner. Have you experienced bad sex? And how have you gone about raising it? Is it more a matter of, I don't have an orgasm when I have sex with this person or my partner, and that's what makes it bad? Is it because of the pain? Is it because your partner is not hitting the right notes? He or she is not getting it, even when maybe you have told them how you like it? Are you having the kind of sex that leaves you and your partner disappointed or unhappy? Please share your experiences with us on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. And maybe you were there before where things were just not working out, but you've managed to address it with your partner, and now things are going absolutely fine. Let us know. Let's talk. It's 22 after 11.
Relationship issues,
Relationship Talk
on 702.
25 minutes after 11 o'clock. Bad sex, what does that look like for you? Have you, with your partner or with your husband, your wife, had sex and it just didn't work out and it's bad? I mean, if you listen to what Casey Blake said, there are moments where in a relationship, you're going to have moments like that where you have sex with your partner and it's not like the best of the best. It's like lazy, or it's not, what you had last week or 3 months ago. But sometimes there's reasons for that. Maybe your mind, you are stressed. Maybe you are, worried about the kids. Maybe you were worried because the kids are in the other room, and that's when bad sex happens for you. Or maybe you've got the other factors that I haven't had an orgasm, or the foreplay wasn't there, or maybe your partner really didn't get to stimulate you before the actual sexual encounter. What is bad sex for you, and how have you dealt with it with your partner? Have you found ways to speak to your partner about it? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. I'm taking your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702.
With me, the partner that I have does not want to talk about how she likes pleasure, how she likes it, and so on. Whether she has reached orgasm, she wouldn't even answer me, and when I ask her, what makes you ashamed of talking about orgasm? She says, no, it feels embarrassing. You're with a partner that we've been with for over 4 years, but they still can't open up on how they like sex, or how they like, how they have reached orgasm, how they've enjoyed sex, whether they have enjoyed or not. Like zero, nothing. And this makes me go out a lot to seek a pleasure, not to say that I don't enjoy with her, but I like getting the feedback, like a Mantashe being called a tiger. I like to be called that, but I can only be called that when I have been digging outside, but not in the yard. When I'm digging outside, then I get feedback which makes me feel like a tiger, like Mantashe being called a tiger.
Wait. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're busy referencing a whole minister about being a tiger. Oh, South Africa, alive with possibilities. Okay, so Casey, this person is referencing Gweda Mantashe because there were once reports about some woman who went to the papers and spoke about how she used to have a relationship with the Minister of Mineral Resources, now Gweda Mantashe, and the former Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni. And she basically told the media, or this newspaper, that Gweda Mantashe to her was like the tiger in bed. And that's why Gweda Mantashe has come to be known as a tiger. But I mean, the point that he's raising there is that the partner, even after the partner has had an orgasm, she doesn't want to talk about it because she's embarrassed to talk about it. But it is normal for people to be a little embarrassed, isn't it, Casey? But why are we so embarrassed to talk to our partners about sex? I mean, we become the most vulnerable with your partner. I mean, a sexual act is probably the most vulnerable things you can do with anyone, and yet there's just no space to have a conversation about it.
I think we often see that sex is easier to do than to talk about, even if we are not doing it to our own expectations or others. But I think there's two important things here, is the different messages we get about sex when we're growing up, and specifically the messages about men who are not good at sex and all the connotations attached to that. My master's degree was on sex education, and one of my participants said, even at the age of 13, it's embarrassing to ask a question during sex education, if you're even having it, because then it means you don't know something. There is so much pressure on men to know everything, but where are they getting this information from? Their friends clearly aren't great sources. So that's the one message. And then referencing the voice note is, women often get messages about not good kinds of women. Talk about sex, talk about wanting sex. What kind of a woman does it make you if you want to talk about sex or not? So I think there's a lot of societal messaging to unpack about what kind of person you think you are if you have to talk about it. And I also want to just say that's nonsense. You're just a human being trying to have a good time with another human being who's trying to have a good time. And if you don't have the rules of the board game you're playing, how are you supposed to figure out without talking to each other?
Yeah. I wonder why. And let's maybe put it out to the listeners as well. Why are you scared of talking about sex? Like, why are you scared to tell your partner that I want you to touch me here and there, I want you to do this and that when we are having sex? Why is it such an uncomfortable conversation for you? Is it because, and I get it a little bit, because having had so many conversations on this feature is, I know that there are especially some men who don't want to be told do it like this because they feel like, why are you telling me that? Does that mean I don't satisfy you? I mean, this is what some men have said on this show when we have had these conversations. So I get that there are some people who are scared to even tell their partners that, please, can you try this? Let's do it this way. Can you do it like this? Because they are scared that their partners are going to feel insecure and they're going to feel like they're failing you. So why are you uncomfortable about having a conversation about sex? Let's broaden the conversation to also be about that, shall we? 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. It's 11:32.
Relationship Talk on 702.
23 minutes before 12 o'clock. It's adult content this hour, as we always do every single Friday on the Clement Manyathela Show. So no kids are allowed for this conversation. We're talking about bad sex and what that means for you. And I've been asking you to share your experiences with us because at some point you have had bad sex. In fact, bad sex is likely far more common than the great or even the consistently good sex that we imagine other people are having. And there's this misconception that because you are in a very happy, healthy relationship, it's very stable, it's very loving, you're excited, there's this misconception that your sex is always out of this world. That's just not practical. There are moments when it's just not going to be like that. And maybe because you're too stressed, maybe because there are kids in the other room, maybe because you were not stimulated enough, maybe for you bad sex is when there is no proper foreplay. Whatever it is, please share your experiences with us. Are you having the kind of sex that leaves you and your partner disappointed or unhappy? And what's the reason for that? What part of sex is unsatisfying? What part of sex is bad for you? Is there lack of the foreplay? Is your partner just not hitting the right spots? And how do you have a conversation like that? Where do you even begin? How do you tell your partner that, look, babe, it's not really working out, or I didn't really enjoy it last night, without sounding like you're disappointed and they have failed you? Huh? Let us know your thoughts on 011-883-0702. And I've also asked you that question before the headlines. Why are you so uncomfortable to talk to your partner about sex, about orgasms, about how you like it? WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Casey Blake is a sexologist and registered counsellor who is guiding us through this conversation. Casey, before I go back to some more WhatsApps, the voice note we got earlier on, the listener says, I like to be called Tiger and I'm only called that outside. And it just made me wonder, because people are so shy to talk about sex with their partners, their spouses, sometimes they don't also express how great sex was. So when someone ends up, like the listener said, goes outside, to use his phrase, when I go to dig outside, I get told I'm a tiger. That becomes a problem, because it's like when you're having sex with other people, you get the confidence, like they boost your confidence. But when you come back home, there's no confidence boosting. You just do this thing and then it's done and that's it. Even when your partner has enjoyed it, there's no moment to even reflect on that and say, oh, actually today was like out of this world. What do you make of that, based on what Anonymous said before the headlines?
Oh, I think that it's so much easier to talk about what we like and to guide people with more of that, less of that. Go back to the, oh, yes, that. If we are not worried about them judging us, and if we're outside, we're not in a loving relationship where we are worried that our partner is going to think that we're some kind of freak or some kind of broken. If we give them direction, if we give them some assistance in making sure we are all enjoying this to the best that we can. But there was a comment you made before we went to the news and the ads, and I wanted to say, if your partner isn't pleasing you, and they get upset about you mentioning this, it says a lot about them. And what I'm hearing, in addition to they're more interested in their perception of what good sex is for you than what your actual experience is. I don't know who they think they're having sex with if they're not interested in it being good for you. If you're worried about them feeling like they're not pleasuring you, that's because they're not pleasuring you. And what we talk about these things in our relationships because we want them to get better. We want to stay in the relationship. Just like any difficult conversation we have in relationships, we do it because we want the relationship to continue in a way that is better for all of us. I think a lot of people have to sit with their assumptions as, you can't be a sex god for everyone. Every single body reacts differently.
And I suppose it also matters how you raise the issue, because some people probably just don't know how to raise an issue. I mean, you can't go to your partner and say, oh, you were terrible last night. There's a way to have conversations about these issues so that your partner doesn't feel like they have fundamentally failed you, or where you start affecting their confidence. You still want to raise it with integrity. You want to raise it with an intention to demonstrate that, I'm actually interested about fixing, about us getting things better. Let's go to some WhatsApp voice notes on 072-702-1702.
Hello, Clement. I'll stay anonymous for this conversation. So, for me, bad sex is usually related to a medical condition. The first instance is antidepressants. That makes it hard sometimes. It is the inability to reach a climax, and that is directly linked to the use of antidepressants, some of the antidepressants, not all of them. So that can be a huge challenge. So it's not that you don't want to, everything is happening, but you just cannot reach a climax. That's the one thing. And then the other instance is menopause. That is also a challenge. And then that is usually dryness, and your libido is just gone. So that is the two instances where you have trouble with bad sex. All right, thanks, bye.
Hi, Clement. I think one of the reasons why partners are skeptical to be open to each other about sex experience. Sometimes it can happen that the other partner, when you suggest something, then they may be feeling that maybe you might have learned that from outside or somewhere else. So I think that could also contribute to some people now becoming reluctant to be open about sex. Thank you, Mbiseni.
Thank you so much for that, Biseni. Another one on the WhatsApp line says, hi, Clement. I've always found that when sex is good, it's fantastic. But when it's bad, it's still good. Best fun I've ever had, without laughing. And then Anonymous says, Clement, sex in my marriage is so bad that I'm just waiting to meet the right person who will want to know how to love me properly. It's boring, it's painful, it's silent, no communication. Even when you direct on how I want it to be done on me, it doesn't happen. No emotional connection. It's too bad. Shame. I constantly think about my ex in the process. And that's what some people have to go through. They have to constantly also even think about other people in the process because of how, uncomfortable or how unsatisfactory that sexual encounter is. Casey, let me let you come in here to reflect on the voice notes I've played, especially the first one, which touches on something so important, antidepressants as a medication that can also affect, how you perform sexually, but also the issue of menopause.
Yeah. So antidepressants is one of many medications, and I don't have the list off the top of my head, that impact your sexual responses. So it can numb your physical erotic sensations. And this is not something that happens to everyone, but it happens to many people, which is why please talk to your doctor if you're having sexual side effects, because that's not supposed to happen. That's why we've got options. Just because it works well for many people doesn't mean it's going to work well for you. Always talk to your doctor about potential side effects and what you can do if you have those side effects. So antidepressants and other medications, they decrease your ability to have sensation. They often, like she said, delay or take away the ability to orgasm. They reduce your libido or remove your libido. Interestingly, oral contraceptives also have the side effect. Like I say, not everybody will have the side effect to every contraceptive, which is why there are so many to choose from. But also she mentioned menopause. And menopause, we spoke about it a couple months ago in our Sex After 50 episode, where the lowering, well, the stopping, blah, blah, blah. The body's ability to produce estrogen stops. That's what menopause is about. It's the lowered levels of estrogen in the body and increasingly less numbers, so decreasing levels. This leads to dryness, which makes sex uncomfortable or sore, which means you're not going to want it. So that's often how it affects libido. Vagifem is a fantastic medication that is a local estrogen. It is safe for almost every person with a vagina. And it takes away a lot of the urogenital symptoms of menopause, such as atrophy, dryness, loss of sensation, etc. So that's my response on the menopause thing.
Yeah, tell me, how can unresolved emotional issues like grief, like betrayal, resentment show up physically during sex? Because for some partners, for some couples, it's because they've gone through quite a rough patch. Maybe there's been betrayal, maybe there's been cheating involved, maybe they've had a terrible fight about something else, the kids, and then that's still lingering. So when you are really having that sex, you are not really enjoying it because there's something that's disturbing.
So why are you having the sex if you're not really wanting to do it, is my biggest question. And my answer to what do we do is please seek out therapy if you are able to. Seek out support that will help you discuss within your relationship, and if you're able to outside, just with yourself, what's going on here? Because there are so many ways the stuff can show up. Often it's disconnection. I want to be cautious with when I say this, but I'm going to use the word coercion, because you're not having sex because you want to, but you're worried about what's going to happen with the relationship or your partner if you don't have the sex. That's a huge red flag for me.
Yeah. So just maybe give advice to some of our listeners who actually have experienced something like this before, bad sex, if you will, and they just don't know how to raise it with their partners. They don't know where to start. Maybe they've tried to raise it before, but it's just never worked. What's the best way to raise it without also affecting the confidence of your partner?
I think we have to acknowledge that our confidence is going to be affected. So if we're trying to avoid that, we're never going to get anywhere. And it's not just about the confidence. It's about, would you want to know how to do better sex? If you want the sex to be better for your partner, would you want to know? If you're one of the people you mentioned who doesn't want to know, then whoever's in a relationship with you is not going to be able to have good sex with you because you don't care. Sex is a thing that we do with other people. It is relational. Both of you are part of it. You can't say one person failed at sex unless they're failing at solo sex with themselves and their own expectations. If you're both part of it, you're both contributing to why it's not amazing. So I think a great way to start is saying, the sex we had last night, what was it like for you? But, not in a moment of like the early morning stress, in a moment where the two of you can have a moment to connect and talk about it, but maybe mentioning it before you start your daily stress gives both of you a chance to sit with the question so that you're able to talk about it later. You know the dynamics of your own personality and your relationship, whether or not that's going to be much worse for your day or if it will help you for the conversation later. But saying, what was it like for you? What did you like about it? If anything, and open the possibility to your partner also not enjoying sex. That it's not just suck at this.
And also sometimes go to the partner and praise them if it was so great, because you can't just want to only complain.
Absolutely.
So you're calling meetings when it's just not been good. When it's been amazing, also sit down and say, you know what, babe, that was incredible performance from you last night. Let's wrap up with these WhatsApp voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Good morning, Clement. Most probably I'm late because I've just joined now your radio. Most probably this has been discussed. Clement, what I've noticed about bad sex and sex expectations is people, they tend to watch too much porn. And when your partner watches too much porn, then they come back and have an expectation of you to do certain things that they have seen in those porn movies. I don't know. That porn it's creating a lot of expectation and desire and fantasies. And those desires and fantasies are not met often. And that's what I've realized. And that's what actually ended my last relationship, because of the fantasies and the porn that they were watching, which translated to bad sex. And the sex was not bad. It was bad because there were expectations. Thank you so much.
Morning, Clement and team. I think the whole issue about being comfortable and able to talk about sex is it goes to how we were raised. Sex was something that was secret. It was taboo. Even our anatomy was shamed, especially with the females. It would be sis, hide, close, cover, right? And I think that is where the whole shame kind of feeling comes from in terms of talking about sex. And in addition to that, in some relationships, you will find that the female simply cannot say things comfortably because the guy is somebody who is saying, oh, you've been around if you know how to do this. Oh, how do you know that is going to cause you enjoyment over there? Women are always shamed for knowing what they want sexually, because it is always attributed to, oh, you must have been around, you must have had many partners. And I think that is just so sad.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, it speaks to also the person who then judges you because you want to try something else. Now, the question is, where have you seen that? Where did you do that? Yeah, it's so childish. We are adults. We must just learn to have this conversation. Casey Blake, sexologist and registered counsellor, thank you so much for speaking to us. And thanks to all of you that have been vulnerable enough to share their experiences with us. It's 6 minutes before 12.